Hey, welcome to Challenge It, episode 13, NFL Mock Draft Edition. Hey, sports fans, great to have you back with us here at Challenge It. The NFL Draft is 24 days away, and Jake and I are really excited to talk about this year's draft class. And I'm going to kick it over to Jake right now, and he's going to kind of give you the layout for today's show.
Yeah, so this is how the NFL mock draft is going to work. Me and my dad are going to be role playing as GMs for 16 teams each. And just to clarify, this is who we would choose, not a prediction. So, are you ready to go?
Ready to rock and roll.
Okay, so I have the first pick as the Las Vegas Raiders. And if I was the GM, I would take Fernando Mendoza, quarterback Indiana. He's the consensus number one pick right now. I think he's going to be the number one pick in the draft. He's a consensus quarterback one in the draft. So for the Raiders, if I'm the Raiders, I need a quarterback. I've needed a quarterback for many years now. And I'm just going to stay and pick the best one available.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot, Jake. You're basing it off of production rather than potential, right? I mean, that's and that's you look at his track record, and how can you not take him at number one based off of the production?
Yeah, he's the Heisman winner. If you want to go in depth on him as a player, he has great size, good accuracy. He's an anticipatory thrower. Yeah, he's got good size.
Yeah, no, it's a great pick.
Yeah.
All right, speaking of quarterbacks, we all know the New York Jets need one at number 2. And, I know they've got Geno Smith as their starter for the 2026 season. I know a lot of times that when we talk about the Jets, we're also looking at the quarterback position as well. But I think, with the second pick that they have in the first round at number 16, they could possibly pick a quarterback at 16. So at number 2, I've got the Jets continuing to build that defense and taking Arvell Reese, edge out of Ohio State. Just a freakish athlete, really plays with a high motor, a ton of athletic ability. You can kind of plug him at several different positions on that defensive side of the ball. And so I got him going at number 2.
Yeah, that's a good pick. And for the next number 3, Arizona Cardinals. This is a tough one because Arizona has a lot of needs, right? They also need a quarterback, edge, offensive line. But I decided to go with David Bailey, edge from Texas Tech.
He's another great edge player. So, okay, I like that pick too as well. At number 4, we got the Tennessee Titans, and what better way to help Cam Ward really kind of take some pressure off of him and selecting probably the best running back on the board. So I got him taking Jeremiah Love at number 4 out of Notre Dame. I think that's something that that the Titans can really look hard at doing to really increase the production on the offensive side of the ball, taking a solid running back to take some of that pressure off of Cam Ward.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I think he's probably the best player in this draft, most complete. Number 5, the Giants. They need offensive line, defensive line, receiver maybe. But I decided to go with Sonny Styles, linebacker from Ohio State. I just think he's a complete linebacker, 40-inch vertical, 4.4 40 guy. He can do everything. He can play edge, too, if you want him to play him there. But, yeah, I think that'd be a home run pick for the Giants at number 5.
Yeah, for our audience, Jake and I went to the NFL Combine, and Sonny Styles put on his show, and it was the first time that we were there, and it was just incredible, just the numbers that he put up, and he's a great athlete, so great pick. All right, number 5, the Cleveland Browns are on the clock, and they need some help building that offensive line to protect Shedeur Sanders. So I got them taking the best tackle on the board with the tackle out of Georgia, Monroe Freeland.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, they need offensive line, so that's a good pick. Washington, the Commanders, they would probably be hoping that maybe Bailey or Styles fell to them, maybe Jeremiah Love. But for them, I got them going Carnell Tate, wide receiver, Ohio State. Simple, I think that McLaurin is getting up there in age. They really don't have a number 2. Deebo Samuel also up there in age. And Carnell Tate, complete receiver. I know he ran a 4.5. People were saying that maybe that the speed lacking, but he's not he's not going to flash at the combine. He's the type of guy that he'll show up on Sunday and he'll show up in the building and he'll be a good piece for you in the receiver room.
Okay, well, this is great experience for me because you just took my pick
Yeah.
for the Saints. So I am going to go. I had Carnell Tate going for the Saints at number 8, but then that's okay because I'm going to take the next best wide receiver, which is Mekhi Lemon out of USC. And I think the Saints need more explosive players on offense, and I think he'd be a good guy to plug in right away.
Yeah, and for the Chiefs at 9, I think you're running to the podium to select Ruben Bain from Miami. I'm surprised he fell this long in the draft. I don't know if he'll be here, but for me, if the wingspan thing wasn't a conversation, I think he's probably the best edge in the draft. And I don't know if that's a conversation or not, but Ruben Bain Jr. to the Chiefs.
Okay. Yeah, I like what Jason Taylor's doing there down in Miami at the U with the development on the defensive side of the ball. These guys are, coming out pro ready and ready to plug in right away. So I like that pick. All right, at number 10, Ohio State, another great player coming out of Ohio State. I got the Bengals taking Caleb Downs, safety, at number 10. Really consensus best safety in the draft.
Number 11, Miami. They have a lot of team needs. Receiver now that they traded. Waddle, cornerback, edge. But I ended up going with Mansour Delane. I would pick here from LSU. I think he's probably the best corner in the draft, and Miami needs one, so they fill the hole there.
Okay. So you also took my pick for the Cowboys.
Yeah.
But that's okay. That's what the draft is all about. So I'm actually going to take the second best cornerback because when we talk about the Dallas Cowboys last year, all we heard was, the defense. The defense just really, performed horribly last year, and they obviously need to build up that defense. So, and it really, it starts at that, in the secondary where I think, and the defensive line where they really got to improve. So I got them taking Jamard McCoy out of Tennessee at number 12.
Okay. 13, the Rams. They just traded for the corner from Kansas City, if I'm blanking on his name right now. But they need receiver, offensive line, edge maybe. But I have them going Jordan Tyson, receiver, Arizona State.
Okay. All right, the Ravens are on the clock at number 14, and they lost a big piece to that offensive line in the free agency with Tyler Linderbaum signing with the Raiders. So I have them taking the big tackle out of Miami, Francis Mayagawa, who can plug in there right away, day one starter, to help replace some of what they've lost in the offseason. The Ravens, obviously have got to, continue to build that line, and he would be a great pick there at 14.
Yeah, 15, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I look at their team. I think they need maybe some edge help. So I'm going Cassius Howell, edge from Texas A&M.
Okay. All right, the Jets are on the clock, and some would say, hey, are they going to take a quarterback at this position? I think it can be very tempting for the Jets to do so, but I also like the idea of them continuing to add, right? Key players, difference makers on that team. The Jets are a long way away of being competitive. They need A players. They need blue chip players. So when I look at players that are on the board, I like the tight end out of Oregon, Kenyon Sadiq. He's a guy that is just a matchup nightmare for defenses. So I think the Jets can't go wrong taking him at 16.
Yep. All right, the Lions at 17. The Lions lost off some offensive linemen, so maybe you're looking at tackle. But I have them going Akeem Mesidor, edge from Miami. I think if it wasn't an age thing with him, I think he'd probably be a top 10 pick. The Lions are able to get him at 17.
All right. Okay. So the Minnesota Vikings, have, been in the news as far as the quarterback and what they're going to do at quarterback. They signed Kyler Murray in the offseason. But I also think that, with that discussion on the offensive side of the ball, the defense sometimes is overlooked. And, you got a great safety out of Oregon at Dylan Theineman who can come in. He's extremely fast, explosive, aggressive, day one starter. He could be the captain, so to speak, on that defensive side of the ball. I like that pick at number 18 for the Vikings.
Yeah, that's a great pick. All right, number 19, the Panthers. I'm kind of on an edge run right now, so I'm going to take T.J. Parker, Clemson, edge.
Okay, another defense. You're going edge.
Yeah, last like 3 picks.
Yeah, well, I like it because it's a defense. It's a deep deep draft for edge, so can't go wrong there. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. We've got the Cowboys on the clock. And I talked a little bit earlier about how the Cowboys need to improve that defense quickly.
Yeah.
And so another guy that has been moving up the draft board, a lot of discussion about Emmanuel McNeil-Warren out of Toledo, safety, that you can plug in, 6'4", quick, athletic, really has a nose for the ball. You plug him along with the cornerback from Tennessee, and I think you got 2 day one starters in that secondary that you can feel pretty confident that those guys can contribute right away, especially at number 20.
Yeah, he's a great safety from Toledo. Number 21, the Steelers. You look at the roster, you go, I'm not banking my franchise on Aaron Rodgers coming back, 43-year-old or whatever, however old he is. So I'm taking Ty Simpson, quarterback, Alabama. He's the bona fide QB2 in this class. You're able to get him at 21. And I think his play really dropped off when that offensive line went down and a couple of his receivers didn't show up like they're used to showing up. So you go Ty Simpson here, and I think you feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, I like that pick for the Steelers because, there's been a lot of discussion like who's a better quarterback, Mendoza or Simpson. To our discussion earlier, you go off of production. Both guys have been pretty efficient and have produced significantly at the college level. I don't think you can go wrong there for the Steelers with that pick. So I really like that pick a lot. Mm-hmm. All right, the Chargers struggled last year on the offensive line a little bit, and so I got them taking the big guy out of Penn State, Oluwasegun Ayone. Who can plug?
Unique name.
Yeah, it's a tough one to pronounce.
Yeah.
But you can plug him in right there at the guard spot. He's got incredible size and strength, and I like that pick for the Chargers. And we know Harbaugh; he likes to pound the rock and be able to control the clock with that play action offense. So he would be a plug and play right away.
Okay, Philadelphia 23. Let me think here. The Eagles really don't need much, but if I were them, I would take Peter Woods, defensive tackle, Clemson. And the reason I'm saying that is because in the news lately, it's been maybe they're going to trade one of their defensive tackles. So 24 days away, maybe they will trade one of their guys and replace him with Peter Woods.
Okay. Woods, explosive player out of Clemson, a lot of strength, and he's a very good player. So, all right, the Browns are on the clock at 24, and I got the Browns taking an offensive weapon out of Indiana, Omar Cooper Jr., who is another weapon for Shedeur Sanders that I like that you can kind of plug in there and feel pretty confident that he's going to be able to produce for you right away.
All right, 25, the Bears.
Bears.
If you're the Bears right now, you're looking at the board and you're not happy with how it's fallen because the no safeties are here. Peter Woods has been taken. A lot of edge has been taken. So I'm going to go with Caden McDonald, defensive tackle, Ohio State.
Well, I love Caden McDonald. He's probably one of my favorite players in this year's draft, and he just, when you talk about production, consistency, size, strength, the guy's a grizzly bear right there in the middle. And so I love that pick for the Bears because the Bears, they struggled with the run defense last year, and he's a guy that can just come in right away and make a difference. So I love that pick. All right, the Buffalo Bills are on the clock at 26. We know that they added one of our favorite players, Jake DJ Moore, and so I'm gonna add another offensive weapon for the Bills and Josh Allen. I'm got him taking Casey Concepcion, I believe is how you pronounce it.
Yep.
And so it's he's out of Texas A&M. Another weapon that you can have for Josh Allen on that offensive side of the ball. We saw last year the lack of maybe number one receiver, go-to players that were difference makers deep in the playoffs that really, I think, hurt the Bills last year.
Okay, 49ers here at 20, what are we? 27.
27.
If I'm them, I'm thinking about my offensive line here, and I think that you have an aging line. Trent Williams is getting up there, so I'm going to take Caden Proctor, Alabama, offensive tackle.
Okay. All right. I got the Texans at 28, and since my favorite defensive tackle is off the board, I'm going to take the next guy that I think is a difference maker, and that's Lee Hunter. Big guy. Can come in, very athletic for his size, quick on his feet, explosive. When he plays with leverage, he's almost unstoppable. But he has a tendency to kind of come fire up and stand up out of his stance. And I think if he can get with the right coaching staff and really kind of help him with his mechanics and his technique and staying low and learning to use his size, he could be a monster.
All right, Chiefs at 29. This is the pick they got from the Rams, that trade, where they trade away a corner. So I have them drafting a corner, Avion Terrell from Clemson.
Okay. All right, number 30, the Broncos. I got them taking another edge. We got a lot of edge players coming off the board. But when we talk about another productive edge coming out of the college, you have to include Keldrick Falk in that discussion out of Auburn. So I got him going to the Broncos at number 30.
Okay. Patriots just in the Super Bowl. It's a really great edge class, and that's their number one need right now, it says. So I'm taking Zion Young, edge from Missouri. He comes in and he's already an established run defender, which is hard to find for edge rushers. The pass rush is going to be maybe limited for him, but to get a bona fide run stuffer at 31, is something worth value. So the Patriots get Zion Young.
Yeah, it's don't want to sound redundant, but my gosh, when you look at the depth in this year's draft class, it's very unique. It's very unusual that you can continue to add quality edge rushers, defensive tackles, in the first and second round and feel pretty confident about their ability to come in and contribute right away. So Zion Young is another one of those examples. All right, so I got the Super Bowl champions, the Seattle Seahawks, picking at number 32. And one of the reasons why Seattle won a Super Bowl was their defense. Obviously, not taking away anything from Sam Darnold, who performed really exceptionally well last season, but it was that defense that stood out. So I have them taking Caleb Banks, defensive tackle out of Florida. Now at 32, we talked about how Jake and I went to the combine. He just this guy's like off the charts. He's a freakish monster. His size is just incredible. Now, the only knock on him is he tends to be injury prone. He only played 3 games last year, right? So, and then he actually got hurt at the combine where he had to have foot surgery. So there's a big question medically for Caleb Banks. But if he continues to get healthy, this could be a steal at number 32 for the Seahawks to continue to add to that defense.
Yeah, has a high upside as a defensive tackle. Really explosive, quick. The only thing is the health. Can he stay healthy?
Yeah, absolutely. But that would be, that would be a steal at number 32. So, All right. Well, I like our picks. When we talk about the draft, there's always, there's always the questions of which players are really going to, you know, really their game is going to translate to the next level, right? And
Yeah.
so that's the challenge of the draft every year. There is no perfect blueprint to projecting that, right, Jake?
No, there's not.
And when we talk about last year's draft, let's talk about a little bit about when we look at the players that were drafted in the first round last year that you think underperformed, right?
Yeah.
You know, which players or player do you feel that really didn't live up to their expectations?
Well, there's some guys where it's like injury based, where you look at them as like they underperformed what you thought, but they also got hurt. Like Travis Hunter was the second pick in the draft, but he got hurt. So there's no way I'm not going to hold that against him.
Right.
Ashton Genty, like he maybe underperformed, but then you can look at his situation and like, did he overperform in his situation?
Right.
Because his offensive line was bad. He probably was on one of the worst 53-man rosters in the NFL. They have the number one pick for a good reason. But the guy that stands out to me, and you look at his situation and injury, and I know he was pretty banged up, but Will Campbell, offensive tackle LSU, and he was the first offensive lineman taken last year.
Yep. Number 4, Patriots.
Yeah, and you can see that at the end of the year, he was a negative for the Patriots, not something that helped them, right? And you look at other teams like the Bears, Colson Loveland, some of their rookies later on in the season really helped them and pushed them up. And Will Campbell kind of dragged the Patriots down at the end, and one of the reasons why they lost that Super Bowl. So him, for me, is the guy that sticks out.
Will Campbell? Okay. All right. Yeah, and just to kind of continue that thought process, Travis Hunter, I totally agree. Only 7 games played last year due to injury. Production was low, but that was injury driven, not performance driven, like you said, Jake. The next thing you talked about was Ashton Jenney, running back. There was there was so much hype around him last year. We were hearing the Bears were really interested in Ashton Genty, and all the other teams were trying to move up to draft him. When we look at his production last year, it was underwhelming statistically, but to your point, and I agree with, poor offensive line and maybe even poor offensive scheme, right? So
Yeah.
we've seen flashes with Genty last year, but I think that you just can't put all that on his shoulders to say, you didn't perform well statistically because you didn't live up to your expectations or other factors. So I think, I wouldn't select him as the one player, that based off of where he was drafted underperformed. Will Campbell, I totally agree. I think it was really evident in the playoffs last year, especially in the Super Bowl when he faced that that tough defense from Seattle.
Yep.
He was just getting lit up like a Christmas tree. And, the knock on him coming out was his arms are just not long enough. And I think that was really evident when he was, in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
He's just not, he doesn't have the length. I think he's more suitable at guard than he is tackle. That's where I really believe
I agree, yeah.
that he could be really a solid player. But the one guy that I picked that underperformed based off of where he was drafted last year was the number 1 pick in the draft, and that was Cam Ward.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
I picked Cam Ward. He played most of the season, right? Wasn't derailed by injury. Still had limited production and efficiency. When you look at his numbers, modest passing numbers, no touchdowns, or he had no. In multiple outings, he did not have any touchdowns, right? His numbers last year, he threw for 3,169 yards, which was 17th in the league. He had 15 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Now, I know he had not the greatest offensive line in front of him. I'm not going to, put everything on his shoulders.
Yeah.
But when you look at where he was drafted, he's the one guy that I would say, based off of production, right, that didn't have any injury problems. When you look at his numbers, okay, to go several games without throwing a touchdown, he's the one guy that I would say underperformed.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. For me, he's a tape guy. Like if you turn on the tape, you see some plays where you're just like, wow, how do you make that throw? And you know who that reminds me of? Number 18 for the Bears. That's Caleb Williams, who was the number 1 pick the year before. And you can say maybe looking off numbers, completion, he underperformed his rookie season, and they were a bad team, right? But then you turn on the film and he makes some special plays, and that translates into next year. So for me, for Cam Ward, I'm really going to have to look at him a few years down the line to see if he has that type of projection that Caleb had or other guys have had as well.
Yeah.
But I see where you're coming from. He's the number 1 pick. You're supposed to perform, it's a what have you done for me now type of league, type of world. So I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not calling him a bust at this point, but to your point, I think that, I don't believe that, but, at the same time, you have to have the right coaching. Obviously the difference that, Ben Johnson had on Caleb Williams is significant.
Yeah.
You got to have the right offensive scheme. So moving forward for Cam Ward, if he has that support system around him, like you said, Jake, you're spot on there. You've seen flashes with him. So maybe with a little bit more support, not only on the offensive line, but the right offensive scheme, right coaches around him, that consistency can happen more frequently. So,
and sorry to cut you off, but another reason why I think that I wouldn't call him a bust yet, or I wouldn't say he underperformed. I think if you polled the Tennessee Titans fan base, which they watch the Titans and Cam Ward closely, right? Of course, I think they would say they found their franchise quarterback. So I don't know if that's that's going to be the reality, but that's one of the reasons why I think that he wouldn't be a bust or underperformed as of right now.
All right. Okay, so on the flip side of that, which player who was drafted in the first round exceeded expectations?
Yeah. A few guys stand out. I know that the easy one is Loveland, right? Because we're Bears fans and, Colston Loveland's a stud. But I'm going to go a different direction, and I got 3 guys.
Yeah.
Number 1, Jackson Dart. Talk about quarterbacks. He wasn't a guy. Like, we were shocked that he was picked in the first round.
Yeah.
Right? And then you look at now, it's like Giants got their guy. It seems like when he's healthy, he's a really good player. And then 2 other guys that maybe won't get the love that they deserve because of offensive linemen. Gray Zabel, starting guard for a championship Super Bowl team.
Right.
As a rookie.
Yeah.
That's impressive. And then Tyler Booker. Cowboys had a top 5 offense. Booker, rookie guard. That's like a great pick, and it exceeded what you think a rookie can do for offensive line, where you're going from college athletes, they're not as big and strong and physical as NFL players, and then you go and it translates. It's a wow factor for those guys.
Yeah, no, I like those players that you picked, Jake. I really do. Zabel was a guy that I had written down too as well. I know at the Senior Bowl practice, he was really, really impressive.
Mm-hmm.
He held his own against, some top tackles, from some big schools. I mean, he stood out right away.
That's I feel like where he made his name.
Yeah, exactly. And he was a guy too that they talked about, you could put him anywhere on the offensive line and feel pretty confident that he's going to perform well. You put him at guard, you put him at tackle, because he's got that athletic ability. He's got really good feet, and he's strong. And he's got that snarl to him as a player. And for offensive linemen, we don't talk a lot about that. You got to have a snarl to you. You got to have a level of competitiveness in you to be an effective, consistent offensive lineman.
You also have to have that want to be like physical,
right?
And have that physicality.
Yeah.
Some guys they shy away from it.
Well, to your point, Booker is the perfect example. I mean, that guy, he plays to the whistle.
Yeah, he does.
When you watch his tape, whether you're watching his tape from Alabama or you're watching his tape from Dallas, that guy is nasty. He's mean, and he takes pride in what he's doing. So I love that. I took Colston Loveland. He was my number 1 for obvious reasons. And the reason is, and I know we talk about this a lot, Jake, is that when the Bears took Loveland at number 10, what did we hear? We heard,
should have took Warren.
Should have took Tyler Warren, and we had last year's draft was in Green Bay, so
Laughing at us.
and Colston Loveland, that's dumb pick, blah, blah, blah. But look what he did throughout the season. He's a difference maker. He's a matchup nightmare. He's a hybrid tight end / wide receiver. He's got the speed of a wide receiver. The guy can catch anything. He's probably had the best hands of all the wide receivers, tight ends on the staff last year, on the roster last year.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, and then in clutch time, he just shows up.
Yeah, he was Caleb's guy.
He was Caleb's guy, and it was the stage wasn't too big for him.
No.
And he literally won the Bears some games last year.
Yeah, you're gonna have to fact check me on this, but I think he had 700 yards in 9 games, which is crazy for a tight end. Like, that's crazy for a receiver.
Yeah.
But for a tight end to do that, that's like,
Right.
I know this guy's all-time great, like Kelsey, but that reminds you of Kelsey, where he's able to separate at an elite level, out wide, and also in the slot. This reminds you of him.
Yeah. Another player that I thought of, and I remember this last year when we were watching the draft, that we were talking about the Bears' needs for an offensive tackle, right? And the one guy that was connected to the Bears we heard was Calvin Banks out of Texas, right?
Yeah.
He went to the Saints at number 9. I thought he had a pretty decent season. They gave him an overall grade of a B+.
Yeah, I think he did good.
Yeah, and so I remember a lot of kind of humming and hawing about Calvin Banks. I don't know if he's gonna, his game translates to the NFL.
I think that was me. That was, I think I was
but it wasn't just you though, and
Yeah.
so he was solid. I think he impressed and maybe exceeded some expectations from the so-called experts out there, and he
Yeah.
he had a solid rookie season.
Yeah, he definitely exceeded mine. I remember going in, I was, very bullish on him. Like, I thought his feet wasn't quick enough to be an NFL tackle. But it is, he is, and he had a good year. He had a good rookie season for a tackle.
Yeah, no, he was he
was one of the bright spots for the Saints.
Yeah, at number 9 too. So when we talk about anytime you're drafted in the top 10, the pressure, right?
Yeah.
For these players to perform and meet expectations, it's not easy.
Yeah, another thing to look for if you're a GM is, like, you're gonna have to look for a guy in the top 10 that loves it, that wants that pressure,
Right?
Wants that, like, oh, you think this of me? Okay, I'm gonna prove you right.
Yeah, that kind of has that chip on his shoulder.
Yeah.
That level of competitiveness.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's go back to our beloved Chicago Bears at number 25, and I know you want to talk a little bit about the Bears situation at number 25, and let's talk a little bit about that as we kind of look down the road, so to speak, with the Bears draft coming up.
Yeah, I guess I'll just ask you straight up, who do you hope the Bears pick at 25?
Well, I hope, I love Caden McDonald, and it goes back to, I'll be honest with you, you hear a lot about, Caleb Banks, for example, is a perfect example. Caleb Banks has got tremendous amount of potential. He's a freak. He's 6'6". He, is vertical. I was like 30, I think. It's 35 for a big guy. He weighs like 320 pounds or 30 pounds. But when you look at production, consistency, level of competitiveness, does the player love football? We talk about Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles. That's one of their top
The person.
traits that they're looking for. Does this player love football?
Yeah.
Caden McDonald, to me, I look at the tape, consistency, and I love how he finishes plays.
Yeah.
When he celebrates when he makes a sack or stuffs a guy behind the line of scrimmage, he takes pride in his performance.
And he's always by the ball, too.
Yeah, so he's one guy that I think you can't go wrong with at 25. There's so much, I feel like that you could feel really good about, especially the Bears struggle. I think they were, 22nd? I don't know the exact. I know they were in the low 20s against the run last year. Their defense against the run.
They struggled against the run.
Yeah, so I mean, they need a big run stuffer.
Yeah, and he's elite at that. And then you can also look at guys like Peter Woods, who's really athletic.
Yeah.
And they're really quick. Clemson put Peter Woods at tailback last year and at goal line scenarios. But I mean, the Bears at 25 are going to have their pick of what they want. Like, do I want to go edge? Do I want to go tackle? Do I want to go defensive tackle? Do I want to go offensive tackle? Do I want to do safety?
Mm-hmm.
Like corner, maybe, right? I know some people have mocked receiver. Like they have a lot of needs, and it's a good class. For me, I hope they go edge. I do, because I feel like every year we talk about, the Bears, they need edge. The past 3 years, like, what do we need this offseason? Edge, right? What are we lacking when we watch the games on Sunday? What do we need? Like, we need edge, we need pressure, we need pass rush. And it's like we get to the offseason, it's like, what do we need? Safety. When you watch the games, the number one thing is we need an edge rusher. We need to be able to get to the quarterback. So I hope they pick one. I don't know who they have. Their board, it's a really good edge class. I don't know what their board lines up in, but I just hope they get their guy. I really do, and I don't know who that is.
Yeah, no, it's great that you mentioned that, Jake, because you're right. And especially, it was clearly evident as we're screaming at the TV last year to get to the quarterback, because they're double teaming Sweat on the other side. They need another. Austin Booker, I think has got a ton of upside. He plays with a high motor. But if Akeem Mesidor is on the board at 25 years old, and to quote Ryan Poles, because I know he really likes Mesidor, and he's high on Mesidor, and it goes back to my comment earlier that you can feel really good about his ability to come in and start from day one because of his development that he's gotten at the U under Jason Taylor, who was a really solid defensive end for the Dolphins for years. I like him. So it's not a question of, this guy. And when you watch the tape on him, I know everyone's talking about Reuben Bain Jr., but I mean, really, Mesidor is like, he's a nightmare. I mean, that guy, he's in the backfield all the time. Yeah, so that would be a real tough pick for the Bears at 25 if him and McDonald are on the board at the same time.
Yeah, it's funny you said that, because I was just thinking to myself that we're talking about the Bears picking at 25. If Reuben Bain does fall or Bailey does fall, wow, could you trade up? And maybe, I don't know what it would cost, but to be able to get one of those guys, that would be big for the Bears.
Yeah, that would be a shocker if Bailey falls. But anything, as we know, can happen on draft day, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm really looking forward to talking about the Bears draft picks, which will be episode 15. We're going to talk about, it's going to be a Bears-only mock draft, and we're excited to talk and dig a little deeper on going pick by pick, that all the picks that Bears have, do the Bears trade up and grab a player like Jake said, David Bailey, if he's on the board. So it's going to be exciting to talk about that. But Jake, it's been great talking with you about the NFL draft, which is 24 days away. Sports fans, we love you, and we thank you for joining us today so we can talk about the NFL draft coming up on April 23rd. And tune in for our next show, which will be a little bit, we're changing gears a little bit. We're going to do our episode 14. We're going to talk a little March Madness, Final Four, which we're excited about to talk about the Illini and their chances against UConn. So thanks for joining us here on Challenge It, and tune in for our next episode, the Final Four predictions. Take care.